afternoon. You should have out your 3.1 notes that you got from the sub after you took your pretest. We're going to get into inequalities in chapter 3, but before we do that, we do need to make sure that we know our symbols. So greater than symbol will look like this. Greater than or equal to will have that equal to part underneath it. Less than symbol is here, and then less than or equal to. And you do need to make sure that you memorize those symbols. Okay, the next thing that you're going to do is I'm going to be asking you if a number is a solution to an inequality. And so on this one, I'm asking, is x or is each number of the following a solution? So what the inequality is, it's kind of weird on mine. It should look like this on yours. And so what I'm asking you to do is take these numbers over here and replace them and plug it into where your x is. Okay, so the question is, you don't have to necessarily write this, but you need to think in your head, is 9 less than or equal to 7? The answer is no. So 9 would not be a solution of that inequality. Okay, then the question would be, is -1 less than or equal to 7? Yes, it is. And so that would be a solution. 14 over 2, so 14 divided by 2 in simplified form is 7. So is 7 less than or equal to 7? Well, it's equal to. So this one would also be a solution. And then lastly, square root of 64. If you do that on your calculator in simplified form, that's an 8. So the question is 8 less than or equal to a 7? No, it's not. So that cannot be a solution. And so that's what you're going to be doing on the first part of your homework. I'm going to give you a number and I'm asking if it's a solution. And so that means you're going to plug that in to your x in your inequalities. Okay? Okay, we're going to skip that one. We're going to look at the next one. So you guys on your notes, it says, is x equals 3 a solution of this inequality? And so what you're going to do is you're going to take this number for x and we're going to plug it in to x. So we're going to write 12 minus 5, and then instead of x, I'm plugging in 3 in parentheses. And to read that symbol, I would say greater than or equal to -5. And then we're just going to do that and simplify. Okay? So if I multiplied here, that's a 15. And I'm just going to keep going here. I'm just simplifying. I'm not moving things left and right. This is not solving. This is simply simplifying. 12 minus 15 is -3. So the question is, that's what we're trying to decide. Does that work? Is -3 greater than or equal to -5? And so here's what you need to remember. If you're on a number line and you're in the negatives, okay? If I'm in the negatives, any number like -3 is closer to 0 than -5 is, which means -3 is bigger. So any number in the negatives that's closer to 0 is bigger. So in this case, is -3 greater than or equal to -5? Yes, it is. And so x equals 3 is a solution. So we would say yes, because that's the question. Is x equals 3 a solution of that inequality? Okay, the second one, same idea. They're asking us, will -4 be a solution? And so what we want to do is we want to plug it in. So you're going to rewrite it, and instead of x, you're going to plug in that number in parentheses. And then -13, and this time we read the symbol less than, and then 10. And then we're going to do that. So order of operations, multiply. So that's 24. Bring down my -13, less than 10. And now I'm going to simplify that to an 11. And so the question is 11 less than 10? No, it isn't. So that's what I got when I plugged in -4. So is -4 a solution? No, it is not. Okay? All right, the last one. They're asking us if -1 is a solution. So once again, we're going to plug in -1 into x. So we have -3 parentheses, and then I have -1 into parentheses plus 8, and I read that greater than -25. And sometimes what some of you want to do is you want to take this -3 and you want to distribute. But I can actually do that. I can simplify that inside those parentheses, so I can save myself a step. So -1 plus 8 is 7. Then I'm going to bring down my negative 3, bring down my greater, and my negative 25. Okay, and then I'm going to multiply, and that's negative 21. And so the question is negative 21 greater than negative 25? So again, in the negatives, the question is this number, if it says bigger, which greater than means bigger, does that sit closer to 0? It does, which means it's bigger. So is negative 1 a solution? Yes, because that inequality worked out in the end. Okay, so that's going to be this first part of your homework, is plugging in a number into an inequality to see if it's a solution. Then we're going to get into graphing inequalities. Okay, and so when you graph, you guys have that box on your notes. I want you to write the following down in that box somewhere. So if you have a less than symbol or just a greater than symbol, you're going to have an open circle on your graph. Okay? If you have an equal to as well on your symbol, then your circle is going to be closed. Okay? If it's less than, you're going to shade left. And if it's greater than, you're going to shade right. So think about on a number line, going left is smaller. You start to get into the negatives. Going right is bigger. So if you look at this example, this says x less than 3. So what you're going to do is you're going to put your circle at whatever numerical value they give us. And it's going to be open because it's not also equal to. And then less than means shade left. And so I draw my arrow to the left. Okay? So on this next one, notice now I have an equal to. So that's going to be a closed circle at that numerical value. And greater than means shade right. Okay? Okay, so let's try this. On your paper, you have graph m greater than negative 4. And I'm actually going to take maybe this off so that you guys can see what yours looks like here. Okay, so on your papers, oh my land, what's happening? Here we go. I don't know what's happening, whatever. Oh, I just want a line. Okay, it's not working, so I'll just do this. Okay, so you guys have a 0 on your paper. And so what I want you to do is you need to get negative 4 on your number line, which would go to the left of 0. Then I'm going to go ahead and put positive 4 to the right. Okay, so what I'm looking at when I graph this is I'm looking at the symbol. There's no equal sign. So I'm going to put an open circle. And then I read that symbol greater, which means I'm going to shade to the right. And that's how I graph it. Okay? And yes, you can shade the direction the arrow is pointing as long as your variable is on the left. That only works if your variable is on the left. So you want to make sure you always put it on the left. Okay? Okay, so for this next one, once again, you guys have a 0 on your number line. And we need to get 6 on our number line. So I'm going to put that to the right because that's where positives go, and then I'm going to put negative 6 to the left. So this time I do have an equal to, so that's going to be a closed circle, and then my variable's on the left. So if I look at my arrow, I'm going to shade to the left. And you want to put an arrow on the end because you're counting all of those numbers to the left. Okay? So if you turn your notes over, now I'm giving you a graph, and you're going to write the inequality for it. And every time you do this, you're going to put your variable on the left. So I'm just going to use x for these examples. So this example here, I'm going to put my x down on the left. And then my circle is at negative 1. So I'm going to put down negative 1. And then here's what I'm going to do. It's a closed circle. So I know I have to have an equal to part. And it's shading right. So I move my arrow to the right. Okay? Once again, that only works if your variable is on the left. So if you look at this second one, I'm going to put my variable down. And then I'm going to put the number where that circle is sitting to the right, which is negative 8. It's open, so it's not also equal. And then I'm shading left, so my arrow is going to go to the left. Next one, I'm going to put my variable down first, then I'm going to put the number where that circle is sitting. Again, it's open, so it's not also equal to, and it's shading right, so I'm going to point my arrow to the right. And then lastly, I'm going to put down my variable first, I'm going to put down the number next, and it's sitting at 0. This time it's closed, so it's also equal to, and then I'm shading left, so I'm going to have my arrow pointing to the left. Okay? Okay, then we're going to do just some word problems. So what's going to happen is we're going to define a variable, and then we're going to write an inequality to model the situation. So here's what we have. A bus can seat at most 48 students. So what we're talking about is students. So we're going to put S for students. And then just like we did up above, we're going to put our variable on first. We're going to put the numerical value, which is 48, next. And so here's what you're asking yourself. Do I want my students to be more than 48, or do I want my students to be less than 48? So don't get caught up in that wording. Some of you will say, oh, most means more than. The bus can seat at most. That means it can't hold any more than 48. So I need my students to be less than 48, but it can also hold 48, so it's going to be equal to. Okay? So my next one, in many states, you must be at least 16 years old to obtain a driver's license. So we're talking about 16, which represents years old. Okay, so I'm going to put my Y for years old. And once again, I'm going to write my variable first. My numerical value, which is 16, will come next. So the question is, can my years be more than 16? Can my years be less than 16? And I need to be older than 16, right, to drive, or I can be equal to 16 to drive. Okay? The next one says it is not safe to use a light bulb of more than 60 watts in many light fixtures. So my variable is, I'm going to put W for my watts. Once again, I'm going to write my variable first. I'm going to put my numerical value next. So it's not safe to use a light bulb of more than 60 watts. It's not safe to use more than that. So do I want my watts to be more than 60? Or do I want my watts to be less than 60? I need them to be less than 60, but it could also be equal to 60. So when you're doing this, you need to think through it like I'm saying it out loud. Think of that in your head as you're doing this. Then here's the last one. At least 350 students attended the band concert Friday night. So I'm going to put S for students. And so once again, I'm going to write my variable first. I'm going to write the numerical value, which is 350 next. So at least 350 attended. So if at least that many attended, that means we had that many plus however many more came. Okay? So students, were my students more than 350 or were my students less than 350? If at least that amount attended, then there were probably there were 350 there or more students at that concert. Okay? And then here's the last thing we're going to do. I always want you to rewrite with your variables on the left so that you don't mess up your shading. So when you rewrite, all you're going to do, put your variable, put your number, and then you just need to make sure whatever your sign is eating up here, it needs to eat down here. So if you look, it's eating an X. I need to make it eat the X. And there it is. Okay, so once again, write your variable, write your number. It's eating the -1. It needs to eat the -1 there. Okay, this one, write your X, write your number. It's eating the X. It's going to eat the X there. And then your last one, write your X and write your number. It's eating the 0, so it'll eat it there. Okay, once you have finished this, you may now pick up your homework to begin working on that. Have a good rest of your day.